Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Atrium X Space. Today, we'll be joined by Hypercycle. Hypercycle is Cardano affiliated and also SingularityNet affiliated protocol that is building an ecosystem for blockchain and AI agents. So, curious to hear what they're building and what their plans are. We should also be joined by Peyton today. Glad to have him back after his trip to Japan, and excited to get started. We have Raymond here already. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. Good to be here. How you doing this morning? This morning for me, at least.
It's afternoon for me, so well, evening almost actually. So well, good morning to you. Had your coffee yet?
Uh, you know, some mornings I do coffee, some I don't. I'm actually pretty sensitive to caffeine, and I love the taste of coffee. I actually prefer the cold brews because they're not as bitter and they agree more with my system, but they're also the highest in caffeine. So I like to take those in. I'll usually add a little extra cream to it, and then Starbucks and the Human Bean over here in the States has a version of that where they add like a chocolate cream top to it. So it makes it really good and kind of irresistible. So I have to basically pace myself with it and not have it every day, even though I want to.
But caffeine is an addiction just like anything else. So it's good that you're taking care of your addiction. Let's say it's a tricky
Yeah.
one, that one.
It is. It is. I came into it. I didn't like coffee at all for a really long time. I couldn't stand it. Everybody else, there's like a culture around it, and there's a vibe. And I wanted in on it. And then it's slowly, because when I lived in Hawaii, I actually grew coffee. I had my own coffee, and I helped other people harvest theirs. And that whole roasting experience and the smell of coffee when it's freshly roasted, that's when, my taste bud started awakening and I got curious about, all the different formulations. But I'm kind of naturally wired, right? So if I'm drinking water and well rested and touching grass, I don't really need caffeine. Um, but I'm not always in that place, right? So it's a balance.
Yeah, good days and bad days.
Yeah. We can talk about coffee for a while, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. We also have hey Maurizio, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys? Thank you, Ray, for joining us and for helping on the discussion with Hypercycle. Very excited. I mean, with Atrium also and Hypercycle. Very
Great.
excited to be with both of you guys. I have been following Atrium since Bloom. I believe that I assume that Raymond also, you have been in this space on Cardano for a while. So it's definitely very exciting to see how Atrium has evolved into these pools. And I always wondered, like, would it be possible to decentralize the whole work and power and work of Atrium? So, well, here we are, to learn about this.
That's great, man. I really appreciate the way you bring these kind of conversations, to the table, Mauricio. And you bring groups together who are aligned in a lot of ways and who can stand to learn from each other and work together and collaborate. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for joining. So usually we start off with some ecosystem news, just to give everyone time to join and update the community. So also make sure you comment out the space, send a comment below to get a good crowd in here. But starting to fill up nicely. So for the news for the last week, so I've seen several things. So Cornucopias has rebranded to Infinity Rising. So for the people that haven't seen that, so nothing is changing for the rest. So everything stays the same. The team, the token, and stuff like that. So it's just a rebrand. But I like the new name. So Infinity Rising, I think it's good. Um, so yeah, for the people that like cornucopias. It's a nice game anyway. So yeah, glad to see that. Next point I had was the foundation has launched an info action to gauge community sentiment around securing top-level domains for Cardano. So they're polling the community if they think it's worth it to file for the .ada and .cardano website extension, basically. And if the community is in favor of it, they will organize it, they will manage it, and they will also fund it. So there would be no community funds needed from the treasury or otherwise to make this happen. So yeah, curious to see what the community thinks. I think, hey there, Peyton, I think you voted yes for this. I saw.
I missed what proposal you're talking about.
The top-level domains.
Yes. The CF said they were going to spend their own money, and anytime I see that, I'm voting yes.
Exactly. So also in the news this week, part of AWS, so Amazon Web Services in the US, went down, I think, on Monday or yesterday, maybe. So it impacted some blockchains and definitely some protocols in the blockchain industry. But luckily, Cardano block production was not impacted. It didn't even blink, actually, basically. So that's a good sign of decentralization. So we're not too heavily reliant on clusters of AWS nodes, I would say. So yeah, great to see. The Midnight Glacier airdrop is over. So 24 billion tokens have been launched, have been minted already on Cardano, I saw. So yeah, that concludes this part of the midnight launch, let's say. So Peyton, you made a video about it on what's next. So care to share a TLDR about?
Sure. So, as we mentioned, the airdrop period is completely over, and there's about 7 days until registration opens in for the scavenger mine phase. So, what you're going to be able to do, from my understanding, is run, things on your PC that are mining kind of these leftover night tokens, which is going to be exciting. So, I'm going to make some videos on how to do that. I've always liked mining. It's kind of how I got my way into crypto early on. So, I'll be doing some videos on how to do it and then doing it a bit myself. And then, in tier 3, the phases, they're split into 3 different phases. In phase 3, it actually mentions that if you miss the claim, you're still going to have another chance to claim some of your night tokens in the future, which I thought was pretty interesting and exciting, especially for those that didn't claim, right? So it was a quick video. I think it was only like 5 minutes long, but just to get that update out there for everybody.
Awesome, great to hear. So you do actually have to register in advance to be part of the let's say scavenger hunt phase, or can you still register while it's running?
I imagine you'll be able to register when it's open. If you go to the midnight.gd website and you go to kind of view your claim, there's a countdown timer. So one, you can view your address and you can see, if you got your allocation or not. And then 2, there's also a timer. And it says, a little less than 7 days now. And it says registration's open at the end of that 7-day mark. So I'm not sure if that means the scavenger mine phase officially starts or if that means they're just going to start registration. But I imagine they're going to let anybody, kind of get in there and do that. And I also just got word that they're doing a midnight summit next month, a week after the Cardano summit that's happening in Berlin. So things are definitely gearing up for midnight. I mean, we're seeing people start to run the nodes on testnet. I know there's already some people in there developing as well. I've heard talks of a privacy stable coin, privacy based DEX, and I'm sure we're going to start seeing a lot of this, come to fruition in Q1 of next year.
Okay, awesome. Definitely keep an eye on it. What else did I have? So, related topic. So I saw that several Cardano protocols like MinSwap and Liquid have claimed their night allocation as well, and they will be distributing it to the users that were basically using their platform at the time and that had ADA locked up in liquidity pools and stuff on those protocols. So it's great to see that people that were participating in DeFi on Cardano at least, or some of them, will receive some night as well, and that they're not punished for participating in the blockchain ecosystem, which is always nice. What else did I have? The Giro wallets, the guys from Giro are introducing their Cardano Crypto MasterCard. So I saw that last week. So basically, you can request, I think at the moment, it still might be a digital card, I'm not sure. But you can top up your card with ADA from the Giro wallet. And then, just spend those funds on the MasterCard network. So do payments with it online. So it's great to see. It's the first Cardano crypto card, let's call it. The other one is from Emergo. So excited to see this launch and see how it can be used. So anyone that's interested in using your Cardano on the MasterCard network, make sure to check it out. What else do I have? So
I think the Emergo kind of version of this card is really far out. It's really just a concept right now. So if this is something that you've been looking for, I think Giro is your best option.
Yeah, definitely in the short term, I think this one will be the closest to launching. I think I saw as close to next week already for the Giro card. So nice to see. On less exciting news, there was a post from the Cadena organization that they are stopping all activities and development. So it was a project that was in the billions of market cap not too long ago. So sorry to see that happen. But it's not possible for all blockchains and all everyone that launches something to make it. So it is what it is. Let's see, anything that I missed, Peyton? I think I covered most of it.
Yeah, I think you got everything. A bit of a slow week.
Yeah, I think that
nothing too crazy going on.
No, nothing too crazy. So I guess we can dive into to Hypercycle. So it's always interesting to hear from our guests, basically kind of a short overview of the speakers and how they're related to Hypercycle and maybe a TLDR version of the protocol.
Awesome. Yeah. So let me give you a start on how I started on Hypercycle very quickly. So myself, I also started as a Bitcoin miner and started basically converting electricity into digital gold. But I always wanted to do more with the electricity and the infrastructure that I had. So I started investigating at that time, like 2 years ago. And that's where I found the Hyper AI boxes and this technology of Hypercycle, which basically was converting the electricity into intelligence. So I was very excited at the moment. And since I was one of the first buyers in Mexico, I was invited to the Panama event of Hypercycle, where they were doing a documentary about the work that they were doing. And that's where I started knowing all the team, the values of this company, and how AI basically was gonna be a very important part of the next decade and so. So I started getting involved. I created my first DAO, which was hyper performance edge computing. And between our community on Cardano, we have been expanding on this Hypercycle journey and creating different initiatives around this. You were mentioning about cornucopias, and it's funny that the cornucopias nodes, some of them were also under basically Docker images. So we have been working closely with the Corn Mafia Guild, very cool community. And they basically helped us on starting also building our own digital economy, but also focusing on the hypercycle side in the sense on how can we decentralize this cornucopia or now infinity rising so that we can have more basically pools, around the globe. But imagine that this can be not on AWS. Imagine that you can have this in a decentralized environment. And well, that's where we have been navigating. And with the Hypercycle infrastructure and tools that we are being given, like the Amy Fire, now we're looking on these strategic partnerships with different members on the Cardano ecosystem on either how can we help on creating future aims to make automatization and connecting them into the node infrastructure that we have within our DAO, or on the Hypercycle ecosystem, or just understand on how to create win-win opportunities. And well, here we are, Raymond, if you want to proceed and now telling us how well, you have been helping us. Raymond has been a huge help to our community, basically, because all our ideas and well, they are not nonsenses in the sense like all what we have been building is just for the next generations, basically. But thank you, Raymond, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That's a great introduction, Mauricio. I really appreciate that. And that news recap of Cardano, I didn't realize you did that on these shows. It was great for me. Cardano's grown so much. I started my journey in crypto actually with Cardano back in 2020. And it is a community that has exploded. It's so big now. We have our dose of drama, but I think we're really one of the few communities that are as tight knit as we are and are trying to solve actually real meaningful problems. And that's really what brought me here into the space. And it wasn't until later that I saw that there was an intersection happening between the kind of innovative sandbox that crypto offers developers and builders and AI itself, the development of AI, the building of systems that can provide services and applications to people. So I started my journey with Hypercycle through SingularityNet when that partnership was still there. And I was very excited about being part of that whole community and family. And then I got deeper and deeper into what Hypercycle was capable of doing. And I saw that Hypercycle is really a next wave of innovation. It's not here to control the data, but actually help free it to collaborate. When AI start to find each other, they're bargaining in code and they're cooperating in seconds, and the economy stops being just another marketplace. It's actually starting to become and look like an organism. So Hypercycle is really here to help increase intelligence and help people who are invested in the ownership of that infrastructure be part of that wealth creation economy. And that's I would say the foundation right now that Hypercycle has made very solid. If you're a Node Factory owner or an Amphi owner, you own a piece of this infrastructure. You own a piece of the network that is going to be providing this intelligence and allowing data to freely collaborate out in the world. Okay, you actually own a piece of the platform that is going to be generating revenue for you. It's already doing that passively. We're already in beta in that space. The name of that space is HyperPG. That's in HMS is the DApp that we have that allows you to bring your Node Factory, your ownership and the asset of this ecosystem to a place that starts to build reputation for that asset. These assets are actually communicating with each other in the network and saying, hey, look, I'm here, I'm ready for work, I'm proving myself, this is my identity, this is what I'm capable of doing, please give me something to do. And so there's a reward for that reputation that it builds in being available 24/7, 365. So Hypercycle, it has um, created a space that is introducing something that I never heard of when I first came into the space. He said, we're a layer 0, right? So Cardano's layer 1. And I'm going to contrast layer 1 and layer zero for you guys. You guys start to understand what the difference is between these two and how they can actually start to work together. And if there's any questions or anything along the way, please feel free to jump in. I can talk forever about this stuff. I just want to make sure I'm relevant, I'm heard, and you guys are following me and you can understand what I'm actually saying. So let's start first with Cardano, what Cardano actually is. So Cardano is a layer 1 blockchain, and it has a base ledger. It's a consensus network. It maintains its own state and executes smart contracts directly. That's what layer 1 does. So in essence, Cardano is providing the trust and audit layer, while Hypercycle is looking to provide the speed and connectivity layer. So if you look at it, the layer 0 is the internet beneath individual blockchains, whereas layer 1 is an application network running on that internet, if that makes sense to you. So layer 0 you can think of as this fabric that is able to connect seamlessly multiple layer 1s and all the applications and layers that are on top of them. So layer 0 is the network infrastructure and communication fabric beneath multiple blockchains. It's designed not just for blockchain interoperability, but for machine to machine, AI to AI, microtransactions and communications. That's very important. Something that layer 1s that are in multiple seconds. In the case of Cardano, it's about a 20-second average per block. AI, when it's talking to other AI and advertising its capability to the network, needs to be able to do that in sub-second and millisecond. It needs to be able to do that in very small microtransactions. There's a lot more messages that are going back and forth between nodes in layer 0 than there is in layer 1. So that has to happen very quickly, because once you start to endeavor out to build what Hypercycle is building, this is the internet of AI, where AIs are actually advertising their capability out to the world, saying, I'm capable of this work. What work are you capable of? Can we contract together to get this task and work done for our client, for our customer, and for ourselves, right? That's what Hypercycle is endeavoring to do. So it's important that we have real-time, high throughput, low latency messaging between distributed AI modules, which we call AIMs on the network. This takes it beyond blockchain speed and cost constraints. Okay, so that's an important distinction between layer 0 and layer 1. Layer 1 is the settlement layer. It's where the audit, the transparent audit trail, the settlement, and the proof of the transaction, the validation of that transaction happens. There's a ledger state that's happening on layer 1, and for that reason, it's slower. Layer 0 doesn't have a ledger state. In the case of Hypercycle, you have a Merkle tree format, a 64 data structure that says, okay, how do these endpoints actually validate and prove their identity and themselves to each other? Where do they store that information? And how do they become the fabric and the internet of AI so that all of these other applications and layers can run on top of them? So I hope that makes some sense. Yeah, Hypercycle is really a substrate for intelligent networks, providing universal data and value backbone. That's kind of where we're going. We're not here chasing like smarter models or bigger platforms. We really are wanting to build a nervous system for intelligence itself to flow, grow, and transact. This is what this is really about, right? So the novelty of we're not looking at siloing data and providing all this space for power to continue to congregate and centralize. We need intelligence to flow. We need it to flow freely. So it's not about being a competitor to all these kind of systems. It's about how do we allow all the systems that are at play to collaborate freely and contract freely with each other. That's Hypercycle's corner, I believe, in what it's trying to accomplish here. So it's about creating a protocol that lets data and intelligence breathe, adapt, and become. I know I'm getting a bit poetic, but that's the presentation of where Hypercycle is right now. I can go on, man. We can turn this all into poetry because at the end of the day, we're talking about the flow of electricity, right? The flow of energy, and really the flow of consciousness on the planet and how it itself evolves. So the question is, can we build technology that embodies the natural evolutionary path of consciousness itself? And that's honestly really why I came into Hypercycle, because I saw that AI systems that were being developed by military and by corporate interests were needed a check and balance. There's a battlefield, in my opinion, in my view, that's happening out there. So I would like to be part of a community that develops an artificial general intelligence and beyond, something super benevolent, something like what Sophiaverse with SingularityNet is doing, that can help align with the highest values and potential of humanity and make sure that we stay in the relevance of the way that this planet moves forward in its evolution, right? We can see how powerful AI systems are and those entities that are being built now. So I would like to be part of a community that could be the substrate, the infrastructure, the place for AGI to evolve and develop. That's my higher vision. And right now, we are in the trenches of making that possible. And Hypercycle, I believe, is the platform that allows that to happen. But it also is the platform that puts a dent into what I came to crypto for, which was to take the 99% of the wealth that is in 1% of the population and start moving that out to the edges. That's what decentralization is all about. In my opinion, that's what Cardano's mission was all about from the very beginning. That's why the Africa mission was there from the beginning. And I'm still on that African mission. I have a stake pull on Cardano that continues every 5 days to help children that are starving and dying of preventable diseases in Africa. But I believe the mission is there, and the more of us that do it together, no task is too great when done together by all. And so I see Hypercycle as a community that is endeavoring not to own intelligence, but to free it to evolve and work and collaborate and be embodied. So yeah, I'll stop there and then take questions as we move along.
So yeah, thanks for that great explanation. For me, at least, it was clear what Hypercycle aims to accomplish. So if it's not a settlement layer, this might get a bit technical immediately, but so smart contracts they're not possible on the layer 0, then I would say, or am I misunderstanding?
One of the ways to look at it, it's a great question. It's like, well, layers, what is it doing? How does it work? One of the ways to think about layer 0 is think about the machine that each node is licensed to run. Right? And the infrastructure of Hypercycle is a node manager. It's licensed by Node Factory and Amphi. And then it's able to deploy a model, call it an AIM. What that AIM really is a Docker container with a bunch of payment headers and labels and different ways of orchestrating how it communicates with other agents, how it advertises its capabilities to the network, and how it holds that substrate layer for the applications, right? So now we have to start looking at what's happening inside the individual model or the Docker container. And if you know about Docker containers and how they're built, programmed, developed, and built, and all that stuff, they can do anything, right? They can run any language, anything that an operating system or computer can do, this can do. So you have to look at, all right, so how simple do I need this to be? What is the cost going to be for the operation of this AIM? What are the resources that it demands from its operator? How big is the image? How long does it take to fix all that stuff, right? All those budgeting and latency constraints and whatnot. And so now you're engineering and thinking about how am I going to offer this service to the world? What is this particular machine going to be doing? What is the cost? So in the case of smart contracts and all this stuff, you can have the machine talking to other blockchains, hosting a node. In fact, I actually myself am running my Grow Cardano stake pool on a Hypercycle node. I'm making blocks every day. I see rewards coming in, and all of that is happening on a Hypercycle node, right? So that's transacting, it's doing consensus with the blockchain, it's doing everything that a Cardano node does. So really what you're looking at is a fabric and a substrate that it allows you, whatever blockchain you're on, whatever payment system you want, whatever DApp you want to use, whatever AI model, language model, whatever it is that you're running, each individual node can become its own AI, can become its own agent within a larger framework of agents that are advertising the capabilities of the network, talking to other blockchains, becoming nodes of consensus on the blockchain, or executing smart contracts to adapt, whatever, right? So that's how the hypercycle network is built. It's built to sit there in that first layer and become the network protocol, the backbone of how the Internet of AI itself builds itself and evolves and develops.
Okay. I think I get it. It'll take me a while, but yeah, I think I get it. So I was also wondering. So you explained what basically the layer 0 protocol of Hypercycle does.
Mhm.
How does that bridge, let's say, blockchain and AI, and let's maybe call it centralized AI or AI agents, being they are centralized or decentralized. So how does it all tie together, blockchain and AI, let's say?
Right. So, well, it has to do with what is the individual agent actually doing? What is the application doing? What is it talking to? What kind of handshake is it making with other nodes on the network? The payment system of the AIM at the moment is Type C and USDC, USDC primarily. And we're pivoting to Base. We started on Ethereum, but Base is going to become the default network for how the node manager itself at the moment takes payments for the contracts and for the AI models that it's hosting and running, right? That's all layer 0. How you get this particular machine to start to advertise itself in the network and respond to workload and carry out tasks. Within the machine itself, you can do anything you want. You can have a bridge happening to another blockchain. You can have two different blockchains communicating with each other. You have to think of this in terms of what is the service and application of this specific model or the specific container that you've built for this, right? You have the freedom to express yourself within the space. So how that sets up depends on how you want this node to communicate with other nodes and other blockchains, right? So you have to think what you're dealing with Hypercycle is a protocol network infrastructure layer that has brought in also a decentralized ownership. So all the people who have their node factories and fees are enabling the network. They are providing the backbone of, yes, this particular license has liquidity, this particular node has backing, this particular asset has value in the market. So they can be traded and sold and bought individually. The idea here is that those assets are enabling this Internet of AI. And where the wealth creation comes in is the way in which all of these machines are transacting and doing all that work at layer 1 and above. They get paid for that. And there's a revenue stream that comes into the node or into the pool that you might be in. Like, so for example, with HMS, as nodes start to do work for all their clients and you're in a pool, you see a piece of that pool. And that's how that works in that more passive revenue stream. So I hope I'm answering the question. I think what's happening here is it's so scalable, it's so open, it's so flexible. It's kind of hard to get your hands around. Okay, well, how does this begin? And it really begins with you having an idea of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, and then turning that into an application that the hypercycle layer 0 backbone runs for you and starts to advertise that capability out to the rest of the network, and the rest of the world is participating there. So that's the I'm trying not to get too technical down into it and kind of offer you, the overview and understanding of how these things interconnect and communicate with each other, and how flexible and scalable they are in their architecture.
Yeah, makes sense. So I was wondering, how does, let's call it a deployment work? So does someone provide resources that are available for users to allocate and to run an application in? Or is the, let's say, the node factory operator or the person that is supplying the decentralized resources have their own use case or their own application that they are running? Or is it more like resource providing and, you know, a client running their application or their process on your hardware?
It's a good question. So right now, I would say there's three primary approaches to this. One is HMS and HyperPG. That's the first one. It's the one that's providing passive revenue to the community now. So let's say you're an enterprise client, or you have some large compute need that you would like to bring to a compute engine like Hypercycle that's going to do it for you. So you become a client of the network. There's an assemblage of nodes depending on your demands that get allocated to that task, and they start to run compute for you. You then pay them, and there you go. Okay, so that's the HMS HyperPG channel. It's the dominant channel right now. The second one is, as a node factory owner and Amphi, you yourself have the ability to run the node on your own hardware. Okay, so you can create a cluster out of that. You can make that multiple data centers if you want, or you could be an individual node. Inside of the node, there's a registry of models, machines that have already been authored and developed. And there's also a pathway to become an author and developer for machines that run on this hardware. So you can deploy yourself through good old web UIs, just like any other dApp, these machines that then become available to the world. They say, hey, this is what I'm capable of doing. This is my cost. Would you like this? Here's my UI. Come play. Right, that's the second way. So as a node operator, you're a sovereign entity. You're a business unit. In a sense, you're a franchise, really, at the end of the day. Every node factory owner is also a business unit owner at the same time. It's really interesting the way Hypercycle did that. And they built some governance and voting right into that stack. You can actually have multiple owners within a single node factory that are taking rev share and having that distributed to them, depending on the income that's coming into that node. The third one is the one that I see being is we're hoping now is that we're going to start seeing more development around. This is where the community comes in and says, hey, we need a marketplace. We need a bigger arena for people who have hardware, who have node factories, who have, who are owners in this assets class, to start advertising what they've got to offer. So the marketplace becomes a place where you say, hey, I'm a node owner and I'm looking for an operator. I'm looking for hardware. Here's my license group. I can enable you. Can we work together to offer these aims and these machines to the world? Or, hey, I'm a node operator and I'm an asset owner, and here you go. Would you like to deploy what I have on my machine? So that's what that marketplace does. That marketplace will be one of many. Anybody out there who sees what this network is capable of doing can build a marketplace. We've already seen it, for example, with Masumi. Masumi on Cardano has a really nice marketplace, a whole agent library, and all these cool ways of saying, this is how this functions. Would you like to buy our services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So imagine that just a lot more scalable. I would say exponentially more capable in addressing the compute needs and the ultimately the Internet of AI network infrastructure. But I love seeing the beauty and kind of the vibe that network has created, and it's something that I would like to see for Hypercycle also in the marketplace space. So you have open, free, decentralized marketplaces to deploy. As a node operator, you can do that yourself from your house, from your data center, from whatever your cluster is. And then you have HMS and HyperPG. Those are the three ways right now to get something deployed and paid.
And just to add on this, so this is Atrium where we were thinking. So basically what we do at Hyper Performance Edge Computing is before the marketplace, we are approaching to projects within Cardano and starting to figure out, well, what is the workload or the demand that you currently have in the centralized infrastructure like AWS, and within our node factories that we already have within our ecosystem, and the help of developers on the Hypercycle side, we look on how to create that synergy together so that you guys can start also diversifying like on how you are or your infrastructure is basically is built, right? So I don't know if you, for example, could give us some not information is not the word, but how does Atrium depend on these centralized ecosystems, and how can we, as HPC DAO, like look at as a mini data center of node factories that you guys could use to start, well, either setting up your future aims to make automatizations, or just utilize maybe for computation or for storage.
So Atrium is a centralized front end, right? You know, it interfaces with the Cardano blockchain and staking baskets, which are on chain, and also profiles. So the first thing that comes to mind is the stake pool operators within the diffusion basket. I think a lot of SPOs, and I actually don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially when stake pools first came out. The only thing that you could do is kind of run on centralized nodes. There weren't decentralized offerings for people to use, but I think it would be great for more stake pools, in the ecosystem to move away from services like AWS or DigitalOcean. And on our side, I mean, we rely on AWS and a couple of different service providers to provide, the front end, for Atrium. I mean, how do you guys you have a better understanding of kind of the decentralized services that are offered? What are the trade-offs, for companies that want to use these services? Is there any latency trade-offs?
I don't know if that's a question for me or from Mauricio. I'm gonna do my best to answer that. I've got 3 minutes. I got to jump into a tech meeting here in 3 minutes, but it really depends on where the node is running. Right. So if you're running this on a home, it doesn't have a high latency, perhaps, although these days a lot of people have fiber backbones. I remember when, my very first internet connection was 300 BPS, man, a 300 baud modem. And it took me an hour to download a single image or more. And it cost a lot. And my mom would come down to me with the bill and say, "What's the Data Shack BBS in New York?" I'm like, "Oh, that's just, this and that, this and that." So we've come a long way. So it really just depends on where the infrastructure is, right? Are you in a data center? Are you at home? What is the latency to your node? The network itself is designed to be very fast, very cheap, many microtransactions happening per second. So that's the way it's designed to run. It's just a matter of where is it running and how is it being served and hosted. But it's capable of being very low latency. It can be high latency too if you're off of some weird satellite link or off of some weird connection somewhere. Although these days with Starlink and now what Bezos is doing with his satellite network and all these low Earth orbit capabilities that we have now, latency is becoming less and less of an issue, which is really allowing the idea and design of the Internet of AI to be more plausible and more possible. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, really, to me, it comes down to kind of latency, scalability, and cost. With the cost aspect, you mentioned, is it actually cheaper than relying on services like AWS, and do they just kind of upcharge for their services? I mean, you think that they would be getting huge, massive discounts on hardware, for example, because they have these big farms. So I mean, how could it be cheaper? Are these services just kind of overcharging?
I would say one of the reasons. So there's two layers to this. I got 1 minute here to do this. There's two layers to this. One is how the agents are communicating with each other, right? And the finality that they need to have with each other and how they transact. So that's very cheap. That those messages that are happening between each other, that has to be cheap because there's a lot of them happening. But as far as the service of the node itself, right? Let's say the subscription to a Hypercycle node hosting a stateful, like what I'm doing with my Hypercycle node, I actually control the cost. I can make the cost zero. I can make the cost $1,000 a month. I could make it $55 a month. So I could compete in the marketplace. And that's another place where a marketplace comes into being. And I can see from this line of questioning that Mauricio's got, it's a great line of questioning. Can hypercycle nodes, can a cluster of hypercycle nodes, whatever latency they have, become part of the dashboard in Atrium? So the Atrium makes a few clicks of a button, and all of a sudden a node in a pool is migrated over onto a node that's running on the Hypercycle network. It's very possible. I've done it myself already. We just need the dashboards on the front side to be able to handle the calls. So yes, you could see that this is really, at the end of the day, we're entering an age now where our imagination and our design freedom is incredible. It really just, it's more about action. It's more about follow through, commitment. It's more about seeing a design through engineering and how that actually becomes code. And if we work at it every day, we're consistent about it. Like I said earlier in the call, no task is too great when done together by all. And we're very capable of doing this. Cardano and all of us together. So I look forward to that possibility. I look forward to the possibility of working with you, Pei. I have so much respect for you, man. You've been here since way before me, showing everybody how it's done, and you're still here day in and day out, man. Tons of respect and love for you. I'm looking forward to a big hug again. It's been a long time, man. I haven't been to these conferences lately, but I got to run, and I love you all. Thank you very much for being here. And let's see what we can do. I'm excited about what Hypercycle is capable of doing. You know how it is with cryptos, with crypto startups and crypto businesses. Most of them fail. I've seen so many actually legitimate good projects, even within the Cardano space, over time wane and just fade out and die. Right. So to have a project that is still going, it's still building, that's actually building momentum and producing and providing results to the communities that have invested in them and started to get traction out in mainstream. That's what this is all about. It takes a while. That the runway is way longer and more painful than I imagined it would be when I got into this 6 years ago. But I'm also seeing that it's actually more worth it now than ever with what I see happening in the world. We have to keep pushing. We've got to get the power out of centralized systems as much as possible. That's how we're going to be resilient enough. That's how we're going to survive and hopefully thrive. So that's it for me, guys. I have to run.
It was good to speak with you again, Ray. I hope to see you soon.
Likewise, man. Have a good one.
See ya. So Maurizio, maybe you can talk a bit more about what the HPEG DAO is doing. I heard you mentioning cornucopias and cornucopia nodes or node factories of file nodes. Yeah.
So we started talking with the Core Mafia guys, and as you know, like the vision that they have is very powerful. They wanted to be owners of like 2% of the whole ecosystem, and that was very powerful. And that's basically what we at HPC DAO we wanted, but on the side of Hypercycle. Like we wanted to apply the Michael Saylor vision, but on top of Hypercycle nodes, because we understood that there were only going to exist basically 21 million node factories. So that's why we started like creating our infrastructure around Hypercycle. And now we are going within different projects on Cardano, like for example, FluxPoint Studios. FluxPoint Studios, as many of you know, they are already working some AI models. They have Talos. Actually, Talos was the first agent to run on top of a Hyper AI box. And well, after that, it just started evolving. Like, look at how Atom, the trading bot, like the amount of workload that it consumes, you know, like once you plug in the Atom bot, you can see how much hash per second all this like little bots will do. So now imagine an ecosystem where you're going to have thousands and thousands of AI bots wanting to be working. And this is basically where the Hypercycle nodes comes in. And some of the initiatives that we are working with Nathaniel, well, or you can see on Nathaniel that he already also launched Petals with Compute Portal. And well, basically what they are providing is this decentralized compute and storage power, you know? so that this ecosystem, so that we can enable these ecosystems. So that's on that side. And on the cornucopia side, as we were mentioning, is we noticed that the cornucopia file nodes, as Raymond was mentioning, well, they are basically a Docker image, So now, and these Docker images, they were all run on AWS. So my question was like, hey, how can we make, or how can we enable for the possibility to see how can we start running these corn file nodes, but now on the Hypercycle ecosystem, and start tracking, well, what's the difference? What's the difference on running them on the AWS, and how much profitable it is to run it on top of Hypercycle. And based on that, we'll start giving back to the users, right? So all this like strategic partnerships and initiatives, it's what we're building, like within our community and ecosystem on hyper performance edge computing. We already have our nodes, and most of them, they are on top of Hyper PG. And well, now our mission is like start making collaborations with other projects on Cardano and figure out how can we help them. And obviously to find that balance, like as Peyton was saying, like, okay, if I understand that I'm paying already, I don't know, $500 to run a node of Cardano on AWS, well, the goal of Hypercycle is make it cheaper, and I believe that most of the cases, that's where we at. And well, that's the approach that I wanted to do with you. Within our DAO, we get direct help from members of the Hypercycle ecosystem and HyperPG ecosystem. So we're building these initiatives where we find that synergy, where we can help you out so that you can test out. We have our developers, and once the product is ready, well, we figure out on how to help you merge or start decentralizing yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's it's a difficult question to answer when it comes to Atrium, for instance. Yeah, we're still in the phase of deploying extra features and optimizing our code and our backend as well. So for us, we're not let's say set yet in our infrastructure in the backend. So I think for us specifically, in the short term, it might be difficult to transition to decentralized compute and decentralized services, just because we're still changing and optimizing things in the back end. But I think definitely for more mature projects that that have been around longer and that have been on mainnet longer, it's definitely interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what you think about it, Pei, but it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, no, it's not like to answer something right now. I believe that it's just like to leave the mind open, and obviously over time you will start seeing like, hey, well, why don't we try this on top of Hypercycle? Well, like we already understand what is to be on top of AWS, but what if like some of the part of the workloads, as Raymond was mentioning, like maybe some part of the dashboard or the UI UX, or maybe something when it has to do with when people is claiming, like Atrium or something like that, like Atma tokens. But I don't know. But in the end of the day, it's this synergies that we want to start building, and obviously for you to also like have that door open in the case like, oh, do we have another option? Well, okay, why don't we start working with Hypercycle and check these ideas, and maybe it makes sense, and then you can jump into it. But it's basically what we're here for, just so that we can make sure that you know that there are other options and that we really are open to collaborate, and we have the infrastructure for it, and also the team that can help us on this journey.
Yeah, on the Atrium side, we're working on the next big update. I know people are waiting on the Atma token airdrop, the long awaited. So on the profile side, we have all of the allocations available for profiles, and essentially the higher level that you got during the profile testnet, the more of the airdrop you're going to get. And then we also are tidying up the final pieces for the diffusion airdrop. So we're going to be launching a big update to Atrium coming soon. It's going to, allow you to stake your Atma tokens to profiles, and you're going to get rewards for this. So if I stake to Mauricio here, for example, I could essentially push him higher up in Atrium's virality. He's going to get some Atma token rewards. I'm going to get some Atma token rewards. So as people, are able to start claiming their airdrop for the first time in our next big update, you're going to be able to take those Atma tokens that you've earned from the testnet or from diffusion, because the diffusion Atma claim is also going to be there, and you'll be able to give virality within the Atrium platform to your favorite projects. So if you're a big fan of SNEC or USDM, for example, you can just delegate your Atma tokens directly to those profiles, start earning rewards, and push them higher up. And yeah, I'm really excited for this next update. It kind of ties the whole platform together in a way. For right now, I mean, Diffusion's over 700,000 ADA staked in TVL to 50 different SPOs. So, for getting those, for supporting all 50 of those SPOs, you're earning Atma tokens, and then you can take those Atma tokens and bring some virality to your favorite projects in the ecosystem. And it's our first really big rollout of the social fi that's coming in the Atrium ecosystem. So we're hoping to push this out in November. That's our goal. Could also be early December. You never know with how development goes. But what code do we have this week, Stephen? So every week we give out a code for people that show up. What do we have this week?
Yeah, the code for this X space is Hypercycle AI. So all one word, Hypercycle AI.
I'm actually already level 8. I'm excited. And also I created an account for our HPC DAO. So excited on how can we evolve this. But thank you for the time, Big Pay and Atrium guys. We love what you guys have been building, and exciting to be here on your journey also.
Yeah, and thank you for using the testnet. I remember seeing you in there really early, and it's awesome to hear that you got a profile on mainnet and you have one for your company. So you guys will be able to start gathering delegation and be pushed up higher in our ecosystem map on the next big update. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate all of you guys using Atrium. It's amazing to check in every day and see everybody in the chat and see all the GMs. I think we're about 3 months out from launch right now, and still going strong. We're getting new people kind of joining in every day, and all the people that we had around launch are still here using Atrium. So it's amazing to see the growth, and I'm excited for the future. Thank you, Stephen, for hosting.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thanks for being back from Japan. It makes my life easier when we can do this.
Be back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining. Thanks to Raymond as well, which left, and Maurizio for explaining Hypercycle to us. Yeah, excited what you're building, and there's so many moving pieces that are starting to fall in place for the next phase of blockchain and AI. So yeah, I'm excited. Thanks everyone for joining, and make sure you tune in next week for our next Atrium X Space. See you guys. Bye.
See ya.